This creator grew from 8,000 to 100,000 subscribers in 5 months by doing one thing to his content, making it feel like a Netflix documentary. And you're probably thinking, yeah Tom, they have crazy expensive gear and a whole film crew, but that's not it. And in this video I want to break down what actually makes a personal brand feel cinematic and not just look good. And I'll show you how to do it step by step with both the storytelling side and the visual side. So let's get into it. Look, I see this every single day. Creators with incredible stories, really valuable insights, actual expertise, but their content just feels meh. Meanwhile, there's others who don't even have a crazy story, but somehow they build a loyal, fan-like community. They might not even be saying something new, but their content somehow feels alive. You watch one video and you watch another and another and another, you're stuck. And I think the reason is pretty simple. That second group understands that people don't connect to content, they connect to a feeling. When you watch a good creator, it's not just information, it's also emotion. And Netflix does the same and spends literally millions studying this. They've basically cracked the code on visual storytelling, how to get emotions across, just overall like good structure. And the cool thing is that you can use the same psychology in your personal brand. So in the next 6, 7, 8 minutes, whatever this ends up being, I'll break down the exact framework Netflix documentaries use to hook viewers in the first 30 seconds and keep them binge watching for hours. And also show you the exact methods I've used to grow from 0 to 70k subs in the past 18 months. And all of this starts before you even hit record. Here's where most creators go wrong. The biggest mistake is that a lot of creators are putting themselves at the center. So every video becomes, here's what I did, here's my routine, here's my gear. And yeah, that can work sometimes, but it also is the reason why most creators don't stand out. Netflix documentaries rarely do this. They put the mission at the center. And the best creators shift the focus away from themselves and do the same. They put the ID at the center. It's not, here is me, it's, here is what this means. So instead of saying, here's how I built my brand, it becomes, here's what I learned after posting every week for a year. Same story, but it's just a bit of a different framing. And now it's more about the lesson and not the person itself. So for example, if you're a fitness creator, it's not, here's my leg day. It's, here is what your body is telling you when you don't feel like working out. You can use the same footage and the same workout, but now people can see themselves in the story. And that's the key, because people follow you because of what you represent and not just what you do. But having a mission isn't enough. Most creators mess up something that actually really is easy to implement. And by not doing this, they're killing their credibility before they even start talking. When people hear the word cinematic, they often think of perfection, perfect lighting, perfect setup, perfect everything. And I had this too when I started out. But if you look at most documentaries, they're not perfect at all. They're raw or they're real. You notice the small imperfections, the background sounds, uneven lighting, little bits of life happening behind the camera, and that's what makes them feel human. And they even do this on purpose. I've seen countless Netflix documentaries where they have like the fake lights or the fake behind the scenes, and that's not by accident, because people don't connect with perfection, they connect with honesty. So if your setup isn't flawless, that's totally fine. Like, you don't need to hide every cable or make your room look like a studio, because a bit of realness makes it more relatable. Of course, don't make it messy on purpose, but if it adds a bit of character, just leave it in. Maybe it's the stuff on your desk, or maybe a half-open cabinet, maybe some cables on the floor, because at the end of the day, what matters isn't how perfect it looks, it's that it feels real. Speaking about real, when you think about what really makes something feel real, it's the moments that aren't perfect. The stuff that doesn't go how you planned it, right? And if you watch any good Netflix documentary, that's exactly what they show. They're not afraid to show some struggle or failure or uncertainty, but they are smart about it, because it's not just random, it's really part of the story. And I think that's where a lot of creators get it wrong, because being open doesn't mean you have to turn your video into therapy. I mean, you can, but you don't have to sit down like, I'm having a bad day or everything is going wrong, because the best creators I've seen share things that are personal, but there's always a reason behind it. They'll say something like, I messed up this project and it might cost me 10 grand, but here's what I learned from it. And that's the kind of story that people actually remember, at least I do, because it's honest, but it's also valuable for the person watching, and it really gives something to think about. That's what documentaries do so well. There's always some conflict or something that didn't go as planned, but it's never just for drama. It's there to move the story forward, and if you can do that in your videos, show the behind the scenes, the failed attempts, the lessons you're learning as you go, people start to trust you, because they're not just seeing your wins anymore, they're seeing your process. And that's also what makes you more relatable, not by being perfect, but by being real. Now let's talk about the visual part of your personal brand. And let's be honest here, Netflix spends millions on visual identity, but you can create the same effect with 3 simple choices. And these are really important to know even before you start recording. Choice number 1, color palette. Pick 2 to 3 colors and use them consistently across everything. Your thumbnails, your graphics, your clothing, and your backgrounds. Choice 2, typography. One font family for all your text, overlays, titles, and graphics, and just stick to it. Choice 3, shot compositions. Develop 3 to 4 standard shots that you can use repeatedly. Maybe a close-up, a medium shot of your desk, a wide shot from above, and I will go way deeper into this in a second. These 3 choices create subconscious familiarity. When people see your content, they immediately recognize it as yours even before they see your face or name. And that's exactly what you want. And there's tons of examples for this online. Creators will create their own lane just by having their own visual identity. And a nice extra when you do this, your personal brand feels more like a cohesive documentary series instead of just random videos. Now that you know all these pre-production techniques, we're gonna start recording. And you don't need a crazy setup, you just need to understand a few simple things that make a video look and feel cinematic. So let's start at how you frame your shots, because that's where most people mess up. What I see a lot of creators do in vlogs is they always put themselves in the dead center, and that after a while just gets a bit boring. And you can instantly make your videos feel more cinematic by just simply changing where you are in the frame. So for example, try putting yourself on the left side or right side, but you can also step back a bit and make yourself a bit smaller in the shot, giving your frame some breathing room. And if you can, use something in the foreground too, like a plant or a lamp or even part of your desk, because it adds depth and makes your shot look more layered. And also don't be afraid to play with angles, because you can shoot like slightly from above, maybe slightly from the side. You can also experiment with reflections, mirrors, screens, windows, just little things like that. It will just make it look a bit more creative. And when you think about your shots, don't only rely on the handheld vlog style angles. Mount your camera somewhere. I use this small camera mount that you can attach your camera basically everywhere. The top of a door, maybe the bottom of a table, or even a bike or a car. And those angles make your videos feel more alive and less like another vlog. You don't need a fancy setup to do this, because I use a DJI Pocket 3. It's easy and small, I can just grab it with. My big camera is always a hassle, so I don't even bring that. And you can do the same with a phone that shoots a bit of high quality video. But the important thing is to have variety in your shots. Look at someone like Casey Neistat. Like, everyone remembers him holding the camera with a gorilla pod, but if you look closely, a lot of his best shots are actually on tripod. He walks into a frame, does something, or talks to the camera, and it's completely still. And it just looks good because the composition is interesting. Maybe there's a lot of things happening also. He also sometimes moves around in the shot, so a few sentences on the left and then a few sentences on the right. So don't underestimate a simple stationary shot that's just framed well. The goal is to make your shots interesting to look at and not just easy to film. Now, lighting and color. And this part is what gives your video that cinematic look, even if you're filming with a DJI Pocket or a phone. First, use natural light if you can. Window light is usually really the best you can get. Now, of course, it depends a bit if it's super sunny, but if it's overcast, it's soft, it's diffused, and it just makes the skin tones look really good. And if possible, just face towards the window or position yourself so that the light hits from the side. That's also what creates depth and contrast. And speaking of contrast, you always want some. You can have a bright foreground and a darker background, or the other way around, but make sure there's separation between you and what's behind you. Now, of course, that's not always possible, especially when you're outside, but it's something to keep in mind, because that's what gives the shot dimension. If your camera allows it, shoot in log. Log footage is basically this gray, flat look, and it looks horrible, but that's the point, because in the edit, you have more flexibility when it comes to color grading. And the new iPhone has this, a lot of cameras have this, even the DJI Pocket 3 has it. And once you color grade, keep your look consistent. Like, you don't need a heavy LUT or something, but just one that fits the vibe, maybe a little contrast, a subtle color tint, and that's really enough. Maybe add a tiny bit of film grain, a film border, and if you combine that with good composition and some interesting camera angles, you'll already be miles ahead of 90% of creators. Your content can feel as premium as Netflix documentaries. It's not about budget or equipment, it's about applying proven storytelling techniques to your personal brand. By the way, drop a comment and tell me which technique you're going to try first. I read every single comment, you guys know me, and I will also give you some specific advice on how to implement it. And if you want to see these techniques in action, I'm breaking down some viral Instagram styles next week, so subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.